Children younger than 10 are less likely to contract COVID-19 and should be among the first to go back to school. That's the view of education researcher Nic Spaul. He joins us now via Skype to discuss this. Nic, thanks very much for your time this evening. As the lockdown continues into its 7th week, and South Africans start questioning not only the economic impact, but also the social, emotional and educational impacts, we've got to look at the rationale government is using to make decisions. Now, they've decided that grades 12 and 7 should return to school first, based on the importance of those grades in the broader educational arch. But you disagree.
So I agree with the department that the grade 12s or the matrics do need to go back first. I think that if the matric exam and the matric year is disrupted, it's going to cause a lot of problems for South Africa. University admissions, we can't have an extra cohort of people in the schooling system, etc. The question is, after matric, who should come back first? And I think that the evidence is very clear that the youngest children almost never get infected and they almost never transmit the virus either to each other or to adults. So kids under the age of 10, so that's children in early childhood development facilities as well as grades R, 1, 2 and 3, they should be the ones to go back first.
And that research has been confirmed according to global statistics and by the World Health Organization.
So this is the emerging research that has been coming out of Germany, America, Switzerland, South Korea, Italy, Japan, the Netherlands, Iceland. There are a number of countries now that are confirming the same thing. And these are very large-scale testing processes that have led to that outcome. So, yes, it is an emerging consensus.
Looking at social media, many parents are worried about sending their children back to school at all for the next couple of months while we're still facing COVID-19 infections. And they're worried about their children possibly dying or facing severe illnesses as a result of COVID-19. So you're essentially saying they have very little reason to be worried.
Yes, the data that's coming out of this suggests that children under the age of 10, so there's not been one child in South Africa that's died internationally, even though hundreds of thousands of people have died from COVID-19. There have been less than 50 deaths amongst the age of 0 to 10 years of age. So it's not impossible, but it is exceedingly unlikely that this would happen. And even if we look at the infection rates in South Africa, if we look at the 3,200 odd infections that happened in South Africa up to the 19th of April, less than half of 1% were amongst the ages of 0 to 10. So it's extremely unlikely that children are going to get infected. And as you mentioned earlier, there are extremely high costs to maintaining this lockdown. It's not possible to postpone the lockdown indefinitely. It's just simply not sustainable.
So you were saying earlier as well that not only are children not very likely to contract COVID-19, but they're also very unlikely to carry and spread the disease. What I think a lot of people are worried about, not necessarily so much about the severe health impact on children themselves, but if those children were to go back home and spread COVID-19 among possibly at-risk family members. So you're saying that that's not a likelihood. Why do you think the government hasn't taken that into account?
So the two studies that pointed to that come from Iceland and the Netherlands, where they track who was the source case of infections in a household, and they haven't found, in Iceland anyway, they didn't find one instance of a child infecting a parent. If anything, it was a parent infecting the child. And in the Netherlands, they've announced that this is so exceedingly rare that children are the ones that are infecting older parents. Last week in Switzerland, they actually announced that grandparents can now hug their grandchildren if they're very young, and that this is the official policy in Switzerland. So this is emerging research. The research is coming out very rapidly, and I hope that the department will update its approach as this evidence kind of becomes more widespread and known.
Well, thank you very much. That was Nic Spaul, education researcher, giving us an idea of the age groups of children who should be taken back to school.